Welcome to today's lesson. We're still talking about expressions and equations standard, but now we'll be moving on to learning target 2, where you can say, I can evaluate numerical and algebraic expressions by using the order of operations. Okay, now first we need to kind of talk about what order of operations are. You may have seen these before, but we want to go through these again. So here, order of operations. Now, you usually have seen this as PEMDAS. We kind of changed the first letter to be a G because P just says parentheses, which is one of them, but there are more symbols that we can use as kind of the same way as parentheses that fit in the same group. So we're going to use the word grouping symbols. Okay, so some things that fall in that category are parentheses, then another one is brackets. Okay, and then the ones that are kind of curvy on the sides, they're kind of like brackets, they're called braces. And so you can kind of use those as grouping symbols to fit into this category. The next one would be exponents. And we talked about that in the last learning target. Then we have the next level, which is multiplication and division. Now these two kind of go hand in hand. They're at the same level together, that's why they're side by side here. So remember that multiplication can be written as a dot, as this little star thing, which is less common, but also as if I wrote like 2x. If there's nothing in between a number and a variable together, this means multiplication. You kind of saw that in the last one when we were changing algebraic expressions and verbal expressions to one another, where some of the terms were written as a number right next to a variable. And so that means multiplication. Division, you can use the division sign, you can use a slash bar, you can also use a fraction bar, that also means division. Okay? And actually, a fraction bar is another grouping symbol too, because it separates the top from the bottom before you can divide. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. Then you have addition and subtraction, and these two go together. That's why we have them on the same level. Okay, now something to keep in mind when we're doing these, the levels mean, so we always do grouping symbols first, or inside grouping symbols, then you do exponents. Now the reason multiplication and division are on the same level is because you do them together as they come to you in a problem. So you work left to right when simplifying them. So if a multiplication term comes first and then a division, you do it in that order. If it's something's divided and then later on there's something multiplied, you do it in that order, kind of like you're reading a book. Same thing with addition and subtraction. You work left to right. So okay, whichever one comes first for multiplication, division, and then addition, subtraction. So it's always in the, from the top, work your way down to the bottom, okay? Always in this motion, okay? So even if there's an addition part before multiplication, you skip the addition, go to the multiplication, and then the next step, you'll come back to that unless there's like a division there in there as well. Okay, so let's do some practice with this to kind of get a feel for what you're going to be expected to do. So we need to show each step for these. The math, you can use a calculator to help you simplify things, but do not plug the entire expression into your calculator to have it give you just the answer at the end. We want to see each step in between so we can see if you understand what things should go first so that you're properly doing this, because this is going to help us when we are starting to do more solving equations and dealing with something that's harder, okay? So here I see that there's subtraction and there's addition, so there's nothing else other than that, so I'm going to take it from left to right, so 16 minus 8 goes first, and that gets me 8. And then from there, 8 plus 14 is the only thing left, so I get 22. Okay? Next one. I have 3 times 5, all divided by 25. So here, this is where the grouping things yet go. I'm not going to divide top to bottom yet. I need to simplify the top. So there's multiplication there, so 3 times 5 would get me 15. Now here you can go one of two ways. You can actually simplify the fraction and get 3/5 because they both are divisible by 5. So you can divide both by 5 to get the 3 on the top and the 5 on the bottom. Or here I'd be okay with you plugging 15 divided by 25 into your calculator to get the decimal of 0.6. Either of those answers are very acceptable. Okay? Example 3. Now here I see there's some addition, multiplication, and subtraction. So here I would say that the multiplication goes first. So 42 times 2. So I say 3, plus sign stays there. 42 times 2 would be 84. And then from here, now I have just addition that goes first, which is 87. And then 87 minus 5 is 82. And that's my final value for that. Okay? Now, example 4 has a lot of things going on. So we got to take this one step at a time. So remember your G, E, M, D, A, S. Okay? So grouping symbols, I see 2 sets of grouping symbols. So with multiple grouping symbols, you always go from the inside out. So the innermost grouping symbols, so that would be this 8 minus 4. So I get 4 there. Now once you do the things inside those grouping symbols, you can get rid of them. So the act of taking 8 minus 4 gets rid of the parentheses, leaving you with just 4. Okay, now I see I do this next. The brackets. So 4 plus 7 should give me 11. Okay, and now I've gotten rid of all my grouping symbols, but the next step would be exponents. Okay, so I have a cube there with a 3, or 3 to the 3rd power. So this would be the third action I would take. So 3 cubed is actually 27. Here I have a subtraction and a multiplication. Multiplication goes first. So then I go to do that. So 2 times 27 would be 54. So I still have the minus sign with the 2. So negative 54. So 11 minus 54 would end up being negative 43. Okay? And that would be my final answer. Okay. All right. So now here, same idea. Let's go with this. So I'm looking at all the different things I have. I see 8 squared there. So there's no grouping symbol, so I can skip that part. 8 squared would be an exponent, so I would do that first. That gets me 64. And then I see that there's multiplication between the negative 7 and the 11. I see minus, plus, and a minus somewhere else. So I skip those, go 7 times 11. That gets me 77. Okay, and now I work left to right because all I have left is addition and subtraction. So 20 minus 7 comes first. Then 13 plus 64 comes next. It gets me 77. And then 77 minus 77 gets me 0. And remember, it's okay to have 0 as an answer. That's a number, right? And just like the last example, I had a negative number. That's okay too. Negative number is an integer, so that's fine. And we're going to have plenty of those this semester, okay? Example 6. Same thing. Now I have 2 sets of grouping symbols. I have a square. Now notice the square is inside the brackets, but what is inside the parentheses will go first. So I see that there's 3 times a 2. So I will do that first. Okay. Then I have 1 to the second power on the inside. I'm still inside the brackets. So I would do the square before I do the plus. Now 1 squared is just 1, not 2. Okay, remember you're not taking the base times the exponent, you're taking the base times itself that many times. So it would be 1 times 1, which is 1. And then now I have 10 plus 1, which is 11. That drops my brackets. So 15 minus 11 gets me 4. And then that's my answer. Okay. Hopefully this has been helpful. And go ahead and head on to your work. Have fun.